This is Fred Adler on Coastal Interviews, and I'm recording on this August 16th, 2017. And I have as my guest Matt Perelstein. Is that how you say your name, Matt?
That's correct.
Matt, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. What is your relationship to emotional intelligence? And then you tell us what it is.
Okay. Well, I found out a long time ago that if I don't know what my feelings or what's happening inside me, then I don't have much clue about what's happening in my life. I'm charged. So I decided to learn more about it, and I found that most people don't know much about them. So here I am jumping up and down about how feelings matter, and please pay attention to them.
Emotional intelligence is a field of study, though. You didn't make it up.
Right, absolutely.
What is the field? I mean, how long has it been around? Give me a little background on that.
I probably became famous around 95 when Daniel Goleman wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence.
Oh, Danny Goldman from Berkeley?
Correct, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
yeah, I used to know him,
he's the man. And he said that it actually can be more important than IQ. Your EQ, we call it EQ, doesn't really do it well for an acronym because it's EI should be, but EQ works because you have your left brain and your right brain, your IQ and your EQ. And so people kind of get it when you talk about how there's your thoughts and your logic and your cognitive thinking, and then there's your feelings, passion, emotions, pictures, sounds, smells, all that's in your right brain. And your brain, as you know, is probably very clearly split down the middle.
EQ stands for?
Emotional quotient.
And
like
IQ, do you know intelligent quotient?
Quotient,
yeah,
right.
Okay.
It's a measure. It's a number.
Did Danny Gold, I call him Danny because I knew him back in the 60s.
Really?
Him and Hillary, his wife.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I used to I had a flower business, and they did a lot of business with me. For that. That's how I know.
All right. I'd like to meet him someday.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm speaking to Matt Perelstein about emotional intelligence. Right brain, left brain, it's something that we've all sort of been exposed to. We want to explain a little more. I mean, what most of us have that cursory knowledge, and maybe it is just cursory. Left brain is more logical, and right brain is more emotional, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Is that really true, or is that a myth?
It's mostly true. Let's put it that way. There's different parts of the brain now. They've figured out that there's the amygdala and the and your more animal brain or down deeper inside and that sort of thing. The thing that I like about it is that it mostly is accurate. And it works for people. They can understand it and say, okay, that's a thought and that's a feeling. Those are different, and we need to differentiate them.
Because it was always, to me, that's what I'm kind of getting at, is it always seemed to me a little oversimplified to say left brain, right brain. Okay, now we get the brain.
But I wish I had a picture of it.
Complex organ. You know?
Right, it is very complex. But if I could show you a picture of it, the picture is very clearly split down the middle. So,
oh, really?
Oh, very definitely. It's two huge hemispheres with a channel down the middle.
Do they look different? And do they come up different colors in those kinds of, when they put them under those scopes?
Yes, they are quite different.
Okay. Now, why did you get so involved in your life, and how long have you been involved in emotional intelligence, or the study of it, and also seminars, correct? Or
right.
Workshops?
Yeah, we've been teaching workshops for 31 years now.
We means you, or what?
Me, my wife, our organization.
You have an organization?
Yes, called Directions Unlimited. The courses are called New Directions, but it's a weekend intensive, get into your feelings and see what they're like and meet them, because a lot of people don't know. People don't know about their feelings. They don't understand about the real core basic emotions. Most people don't want to talk about them. They don't necessarily even have the language for them. You weren't taught about them in school, and so we don't talk about them, and people don't know about them, especially us guys.
You think that's a bit of a cliche?
No, I don't. I think most people don't know they couldn't differentiate between distinction of sadness, anger, of fear. They don't know that their anger is based on thoughts. They don't know that fears gets mushed around in there and they're acting angry and they sound angry, but that's not anger, it's fear. Right? I think a lot of people don't know that.
Sometimes it's hurt. You're hurt, so you get angry. My father was an expert at that.
Absolutely. A lot of things.
You'd be hurt by something me and my brother would do, so you get angry at us.
Right. Yeah, they're sounding, and that's protecting its harshness, and it's also that's learned, but it's also a protection of the more vulnerable stuff. The fear and the hurt are vulnerable.
Matt Perelstein on emotional intelligence. Matt, before I go back to talking about your seminar, which I really want to know more about. You said something that I want to go into a little more, which is about men, and then men not being in touch with their emotions, and then I used the word cliche. Don't you think that in recent decades, particularly the last 2 or 3, there's been a lot of progress in that area? And of course, we're making generalizations.
Yes, we are.
But I do see, at least, we live in a progressive area, Northern California, but I see so many men, for instance, and it's related, who are fathering children, and they go to the grocery with little children, which didn't used to happen. And
Beautiful.
so there is a shift,
Great.
at least in parts of society, since women's lib and certain amount of enlightenment. Go ahead and tell me what you think about
No,
that.
I think that's wonderful. I'm fantastic. That's exactly my purpose and my goal is to help people understand how this works. And if it's actually shifting, I'm very happy about it. I feel like there's a lot of encouragement. I feel like there's a lot of positivity in that area. And I agree that it is shifting.
That the sensitive male is more prevalent than used to be.
And
of
more
course,
cool.
we're not seeing it as we talk on this August 16th, 2017. We're right in the midst of this horrible thing that happened in Charlottesville. These are not sensitive men. Who came.
Oh no, gosh! And women. Yeah, I saw some of the videos.
Were there women in
Yeah.
that?
Oh,
in that? I
definitely.
wondered. I've been asking
Pounding
people
on
that.
these guys.
There were, in fact,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
From the aggressors.
Yeah.
There were women involved.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I wondered about that.
But it's mostly guys. Mostly guys are aggressive. I don't want to be too biased, but I am a little bit because most of our students over 30 years have been probably 75% women because men don't want to talk about it and they don't want to deal with it and that sort of thing. So that's kind of a shame to me. But if you look at some of the biggest social problems today, such as violence, abuse, divorce, suicide, addictions, mental health, physical health, even war, it's mostly guys. That's mostly guys. The statistics show it's mostly guys, and it is.
Statistics, do you have any statistic on that number?
On
The balance between men and women in relation to these kinds of problems?
no.
Mostly it could be 51%.
Yeah,
in other words,
example, suicides. More women actually attempt suicide, more men achieve or are successful.
okay.
'Cause it's
But
more
you don't
violent.
have specific numbers. Of
Not on that one right now.
percentages
I
of any
do
of
have
these.
them written down. I don't have them in
but
front
not
of me.
with you. Okay. Okay. Tell me more about your seminars, Matt Perelstein. What do you call them? And they're about emotional intelligence, being in touch with your emotions. You would
Yes.
say.
They're called New Directions. Trying to take a new direction in life, but and let me point out first off that they are not required. You do not need anything or anybody in order to have a high emotional intelligence. It's all inside of you. It's all free. It's pretty much unlimited. If you want more emotional intelligence, then steps are shut your mouth. Second, shut your eyes, which is interesting, and go inside and see what you feel. And so what we do is to help people experience different emotions. We help people differentiate them, which is a big deal. We help make a really, really safe place so that people can go look at the scary stuff on the inside. We make it safe on the outside, that sort of thing.
Be more specific. I'm going to take a quick break, and I want you to be more specific about what you do in the seminar.
Very good.
I'm back with Matt Perelstein. Took a quick break because I had to cough. I was asking about your seminars to be very specific about what you do and where they are, where how long. Be as specific about them as you can, because that's really the work that you're doing in relation to emotional intelligence plus book, right?
Correct. Okay, well, the workshops themselves, like I said, I've been teaching for an awfully long time. And what we do is, first and foremost, is try to make it safe for people. It's an environment that we delve into scary feelings, and so we need to make it safe for folks. So the first objective of it's a weekend, Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. On Friday night, that's the main objective. What are you here for? And what the reality is that no matter what is happening to people currently, that's more of a symptom of what is going on inside, and what happens really with the feelings that when they get messed up is as a kid. So we're saying, okay, what happened to you in the past? Where did all this start? Where did it come from? And people as a kid, usually when we're born and the first couple of years, we actually have very high emotional intelligence. We can, when we're sad, we cry. When we're wet or whatever, we're hungry, we yell, that kind of thing. And when our needs get met, then we're done. We're done with that feeling and go back to being happy, which is cool. So that means that you go down, you feel the negative feelings. Usually, this is the norm. Usually, you feel the negative feelings, and then when they're done, you let go, and they come back kind of naturally to being positive. So we call it feel it to heal it. So if you can go to the negative feelings and express them and accept them, the 3 steps are know what you feel, accept what you feel is a huge step, and then learn how to express them in positive ways, effective ways, responsible ways. Then you can transfer or process, we call it, the negative feelings out into, and they come back quite naturally to more positives.
When you're under the age of...
No, all the time. That is how feelings work.
Yeah, so you say when you're very young.
Right, we're very young, that process gets interrupted. The kids have, stuff happens, right? There's another word for it, but stuff happens to people all the time. Everybody has trauma, everybody has things that happen, everybody has disappointments, everybody gets left, whatever it is. And we're not able to express those feelings or even talk about them.
What do you think is the age at which it begins to really shift?
Well, it depends on the kid. I mean, and depends on their parents usually. Sometimes it's immediately. Some kids get it right away. Some kids, it takes a little while. So, mostly on a graph that if we were to graph it, it would say it generally goes downhill. From when you're born, it goes downhill.
Yeah, you can't say it around the age of 5 or 6 when your cognitive changes?
Yep. I would say 5 or 6 is a very good, yes, absolutely. And I'm not saying when you're 5. Some people...
Yeah, no, it's
right,
within reason. Within reason.
But yeah, I would say actually probably more like 4 to 6.
It begins to shift in that age from the instinctive emotional intelligence to more thought and more censoring and more being affected from life and traumas and things like that.
Right.
So adulthood begins to shift that, and certainly getting into adolescent repression of feelings and so forth.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. And so, how do you work in the seminars again to get people back in touch with their emotional intelligence?
Well, like I said, first is awareness. So what happened? Most people, we have a worksheet where it goes, events happen, then we put a meaning on those. We decide, okay, so for example, my dad was in the Air Force, and we moved all the time. And for me, it was horribly painful. It was very painful. And what happened is that what I thought about that we were always moving, or my friends were moving.
Like every year or two?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, all the time, just constantly. I moved every 3 to 4 years, but we were all with military friends, and so they are moving too. So it's random.
They call you an Air Force brat.
Yeah, definitely brat. Yeah. But for me, it was very painful. It wasn't as bad for my sister, but I took it hard. And some of the things that I thought about were, if they're leaving, I figured they must be leaving me. There must be something wrong with me. There must be, I'm bad, or I'm not lovable, or and I've certainly felt powerless.
Even though you went with them?
I went with my parents, but as in general...
Who was leaving you?
My friends. My friends and family.
Got it.
Yeah. Everybody but my parents and my sister, pretty much. Everybody else was all fluid, and I felt very powerless, and I felt very... kind of out of control. My life wasn't in my control.
Yeah.
Bottom line, and if people start thinking that they are basically a victim or basically powerless, then you start acting that way, and it doesn't go very well.
How do you start acting? What do you do?
Well, for me, I was a mess. Like in middle school, high school, I ended up in 6th grade. I was taken out of class to go to a psychiatrist in 6th grade. Try explaining that to your friends.
What were you doing that was causing them to take you?
Depression, irritable, not fun, it was clearly stuff was wrong with me.
Were you acting out mischievous or aberrant behavior?
No, I was more internal. I wasn't brave enough to be mischievous yet until high school.
The way you felt and the way you were showing how you felt.
Right,
with your demeanor.
Yes, right. And my parents were very concerned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they sent me to the psychiatrist, as a Air Force doctor, and he used the old Freud technique where you wait for the person to share. You just wait until they're ready to talk. Yeah. Well, I'd go to sleep. And for months, and it was just a shame, and they finally gave up.
I went through that.
Really? Yeah. Was it helpful for you?
Well,
did you end up opening
up? I'm talking
up?
about I saw some psychiatrists of that sort.
Yeah.
I saw their therapists later. No, I saw, there was one psychiatrist I saw when I was 15 or 16 where I never spoke. He was a very sweet man, but I never spoke, and he couldn't get me to.
Yeah, and that actually kind of made it worse. Like, wow, I can't even get this guy to like me, and he's getting paid to. Yeah. So it kind of made it worse. So anyway, I've found that when I took a class similar to this 20-something, 30 years ago, whatever, and I was able to speak about some of that and was able to understand that a fair number of the things I thought were major disorders in my life, I thought I was a wacko, you know.
You were.
Well, I don't know. Diagnosable. I'm sure I am. Yeah.
Well, that's a slang term. But you were certainly having problems.
Yep.
Put it that way.
And what I found, though, the way I got some power and control over my life was to understand that they're my thoughts and my feelings, and I can actually adjust them, no matter what's happening out here, whether they leave me or not. I generalized that, I personalized it, and I don't necessarily have to do that.
How were you able to get to that point? What happened?
Just by taking a class similar to ours.
Well, tell me.
Okay.
Be more specific.
Yeah. So, like I said, we go back into childhood, and most people know pretty much where they shifted from being a pretty happy little kid to not so happy anymore, or stuff that happened to them, and where things had changed.
You find most people can remember that, and they're clear on that.
Yep. Most people.
That's good.
Yep. We have a worksheet, like I said, event, meaning, feeling, behavior. So what happened to you? They can fill that in. So what did you decide about life? What did you decide about yourself? What did you decide about how men are, how women are, how moms are, how dads are, how families are? How do I fit into the world or not fit into the world? And you can pretty much most people can come up with answers to those, to the point where they're saying, I can see that I decided this as a child, and I'm still living as if that is true. It's my story. It's my thoughts that I had at the time, and that's true, and they are still true. Now, the key is, in my opinion, is the next step, which is the feelings around it, because a lot of therapy, a lot of people go into, okay, I know what the trauma is. I know what happened. Okay. What about it? Well, A, it's what did you decide about it, thought-wise, and B, what did you feel about it? What did you feel about it? What feelings did that come up? If you think you're alone and you think there's something wrong with you, then all these feelings come up. I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel afraid of people. I was afraid of people in general, and specifically, if I feel that stuff for long enough, it turns into depression. It turns into anxiety because I don't know what the heck's going on in my life, that kind of thing. So those thoughts created the feelings, and if I can deal with the feelings directly and indirectly, then that kind of allows the belief systems, the meanings that I placed on myself, the big generalities, allows me to change them.
Mm-hmm. I'm speaking to Matt Perelstein, who has seminar, along with your wife, Matt, seminars about emotional intelligence. Also has written a book. What's the name of the book?
I'm not done with it yet.
Yeah.
Emotional EQ 101, hopefully.
Okay. Back to the seminar. Now, what I'm not grasping is how the catharsis occurs through these 3 days of seminar.
Okay. Well, like I said, first is acceptance or awareness. So we're trying to identify what are the feelings and the thoughts and feelings that are messing you up. Second is acceptance. It sounds easy and it only takes a second, but sometimes people fight it. They fight it.
Acceptance meaning?
Accept that, yeah, this is what happened. Yes, I am angry about that. Yes, I am hurt about that.
Rather than being in a defensive or protective or in denial mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And third is figuring out how to express it. And so what we help people do is to express it. We have this, what we call a statement, and people go through that, and it's the different feelings. It starts with, I'm through being the victim. I am through being the victim. And we have people one at a time go through this process. And if you can if you can really, I mean, it's not just, you don't just say it, you feel it, you
How
act
do you get
it out,
people,
you role
how many
play
people
it.
are usually in this?
20 max.
Okay.
20.
And so, how do you get people to feel it rather than just say it? What is your technique for doing that?
Well, first we ask them, and then some
Ask
people have
them.
trouble with it. Yeah, go ahead. And second, you can. Okay, so what's getting in your way? Okay, what are your judgments about your feelings? Right, because there's lots of judgments about feelings. What are you in denial about? I'm pretty good at watching people and listening to people and seeing where their walls are up and where they're avoiding and
How
where
did
they're denying.
you get good at that? Did you have specific training, or is that instinctive?
Like I said, I took a workshop,
But not
similar, and then they trained
But you
us
don't
some. Have
a license in some kind of therapy per
right.
se.
Yeah, it's just educational. It's all inside of you. I'm not
Yeah.
diagnosing anybody. We're not
Okay.
prescribing meds, and we're in fact we're the alternative to meds, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
No, but I mean,
and
you're
sometimes
not
they're
using
needed.
therapeutic techniques, not medication. I'm not talking about
Yep.
that. But that have you been trained in particularly? It just came through your own resources or your own catharsis through the workshop that you took and your own instincts. So would that be accurate?
Yeah, and I've been developing them over all these years
And
to be able to.
observing how people defend.
Yeah, and it's much
and
simpler.
how to bring them out.
Yeah, it's much simpler than it seems. It's
How-
not easy,
Why
but
is
it's
it
real
simple?
simple.
Tell me why it's simple.
Just because if you can talk to the kid, if you can talk as if it's the kid, and the person's willing to do that, then kids are not complicated. Mostly.
So you it's like that. You're talking to the what
Inner
there
child.
used to be. You're the child within. The child within. So there's some technique around the child within, which
Absolutely.
is a form of therapy.
Visualization, role play, meditation, where you go back and
Okay.
go into that, and you become. And I take them on this journey. Okay, so go back as far as you
imagery,
can. Imagery, right?
Yeah, guided
That's the word.
imagery.
There you go. Thank you.
Or what about hypnotherapy?
It's effective and it's very goes along with this beautifully, but I don't use that in specific technique.
'Cause it sounds
NLP
like,
though. Do you
in
know
a
NLP?
sense, it's in a sense there is some hypnotherapy, maybe not overtly because you're getting people to regress and instinctively regress.
Okay.
Or you're coaxing them to regress.
I never called it that, but that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, I like it.
Never called it what?
Right. Hypnotherapy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
But another one is NLP, if you heard of that, neuro-linguistic programming, and
Yeah,
that's
I have,
basically about how you take in information, how you store information, how you retrieve the information, how you express the information inside of your brain and inside of your spirit, if you will. And by doing that, by going in and watching yourself, you can see that how this little kid, and you become friends with the little kid, which is the key to the whole thing. That's the adult big you making friends with little you, and then that makes you more whole. It makes you not alone, which is a huge deal. It makes it so that you big you can nurture what little you still needs, and I write them with a little u as opposed to a big capital U, and those are guided by what I call the universal you, two big U's, which is kind of like your higher knowing inside. But if you can get those three together and you can become a team within yourself, you can do all kinds of things. It's a wonderful deal.
You seem to have it just indicated there's a spiritual element to this.
Absolutely.
Want to talk to that?
Well, not religious. I won't go there, but I'm
Spiritual.
definitely spiritual in that. If you were hurt by people, especially your family, especially if it was on purpose, a lot of times, how do you deal with that? How do you spiritually become, be okay with yourself? If you're rejected or hurt or beaten on or abused or molested and all that stuff, I mean, what do you do with that? It just puts like a big dent or a hole in your spirit. I oversimplify, of course, but it needs to be healed, and it can be healed. But first is awareness and acceptance.
Have you had? I think the answer has to be yes, just because you're so involved in this and positive about your workshops. But I'll ask it anyway. Have you had, to your absolute knowledge, great success with the people who have come through? And have there been any people who have said, I got nothing or little out of it?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
Yes, by far the majority of people love it, in my experience. we do have money back guarantee, so I'll find out, right
What
away.
do you think
if
goes wrong when it doesn't? When the person
Sorry?
is too resistant? When a person comes up negative to the experience?
Yeah, or got their heels dug in, as my wife calls it. They're
Yeah,
stuck in
that's
their
what I
ways. I'm
call
not moving it.
resistance,
We just had a fellow that was coming to fly out. He was flying out to class. We have class next weekend in Fresno, and he decided, I don't want to go there. I don't want to delve into my big feelings. I don't want to. I just don't want to, and I'm not going to touch it. And so I know that's messed up, but I'm not.
He came to the seminar?
No, he
didn't. He
canceled.
decided not.
Yeah, he wasn't going to.
Do you know why he was even interested at all?
Yeah, he teaches
felt
emotional
that way?
intelligence at UVA and at Pepperdine and at some other places online. I taught a class with him. And he said he teaches emotional intelligence, but he said, I don't want to delve into the deep stuff. I just don't. Okay, that's cool.
Do you think there's a contradiction there?
Doesn't matter what I think.
Well, you're here to talk. What do you mean it doesn't matter what you think?
It doesn't matter what I think about that. I mean, it's
Well-
his nickel. So he knows that he's missing out. And
Well, I
that's
guess
okay.
I'll phrase it differently. Do you think that a person who wants to delve into the area of emotional intelligence, that one of the prerequisites is to go into one's own emotions, and otherwise you're in a vacuum.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. The number one in my awareness is first, like I said, right? But that acceptance thing, the biggest part of acceptance, in my opinion, is what I call emotional responsibility, which means my thoughts and my feelings are mine. Period. You do not make me angry. No one has ever made me angry. You can make me hurt. You can slam me with a board. You can kick me. You can make me feel physical pain. But you cannot make me feel emotional pain without my permission. You can't do it. So any thoughts and feelings that I had, they're mine. I made them. And I can change them. And that is a huge, huge thing to me.
And you can change them just by deciding to, or how?
Well, you can change them. In my opinion, you have to be aware of them and accept them also. But you also you can, if I get hurt nowadays, right? And it still I'm super sensitive, and it happens to me all the time. I go, oh, okay, I got hurt. That's awareness. Oh, yep, I got hurt. That's acceptance. All right, yes, that is what happened. I got my feelings hurt again. Okay, so what thoughts did I have behind the feelings that created this? I think that you don't like me. I think that you disrespected me. I think that I got judgments about you. All kinds of stuff. And all those thoughts are creating my or my hurt. Those are creating that. And if I can understand that I created them in the first place based on my thoughts, and that I can change them, and B, okay, now they're my feelings. If I'm hurt, like on the way up here, I cried a little bit on purpose, because I was feeling some sadness in my heart. And so I let myself go there for a minute, and you don't have to go live there. You don't have to, you don't have to pound on pillows all the time. You don't have to be, need to get the tissues out every time. But if I can let myself just be there and be in it and be with it, it kind of dissipates. It kind of like, all right, my heart wants to be heard. Our body, there's pain that's in our body, wants to be heard, and it wants us to do something about it. Little me wants big me to allow that to happen. And if I can do that, then he's like, okay, thanks.
And so you're really
Right.
talking, and as we said earlier, about a lot of the work is about the child within, which was the old expression.
Well, you were asking about the workshop, and that's
Yeah.
the big deal. That we go. I don't want to care what's happening in the present. Let's go back and find out what really happened and what's really going on with you. But that's not all of it. That's not. I mean, that's just a workshop, and you don't have to take the workshop to do all this. Emotional intelligence can be right now, right here, right now, from the rest of your life. You don't have to go back and delve into these heavy stuff. But it is helpful to know what the heck you're feeling. It is super helpful to know what the heck you're feeling. Feelings aren't bad. Most people have a lot of judgments about their feelings, especially the negative ones. They deny them, they judge them, they don't want to talk about them. But if you can allow them and they can be part of you and part of life, then it becomes more smoother. You can become more whole. You can adjust things better. You can let go of things better. All that. If we're fighting with parts of ourselves, we're afraid of parts of ourselves. A lot of people are afraid of their own fear. There are a lot of people are afraid of their own anger. Anger, oh my goodness, right? As a society, we don't like anger at all. But it's real. It's a real thing, and it really is important. And there's great ways of dealing with anger, and there's horrible ways of dealing with anger. Of course, we've had hundreds of negative role models on how not to deal with anger. But there's some really positive, powerful ways to deal with anger in a way that is healing and motivating and phenomenal.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to delineate that. But I want to first say again, you're Matt Perelstein, Emotional Intelligence Seminars, and writing a book on emotional intelligence. What are some ways to deal with anger? Again, be more specific.
Okay.
Generalities is what I try to pin people away from. Make a generality and then support that generality through specific if you're able to.
Okay.
Sometimes it's hard, but
yeah.
I know you.
No, there's lots of ways to deal with it, and there's lots of bad ways to deal with it.
Yeah,
there's lots of good ways to deal with it.
Be more specific.
I just saw a thing on Facebook yesterday. There's new. What did they call them? Rage rooms. It's a room with kind of broken up stuff in there. You put a suit on and glasses and the headphones and stuff, and they just wail on stuff. They give you a bat or boxing gloves or
that's
whatever.
Not so new. They've been.
Oh well, I just saw it yesterday.
I mean, back in the '60s, we did it a different way. We would pound on a mattress, and you would.
Great. Yeah, we say couch, bed, or pillow. Yeah. Usually because and nobody.
Just more advanced ways of pounding on a pillow.
Yeah, it's a way to make money, which is cool. But
right.
I think it's totally appropriate. I think people get mad and they feel mad and they need to be mad for a minute. Be mad for a minute, and the best way to get unmad is to be mad for a minute, not blame, not you did this, you, but I feel, I am angry about that. This pissed me off about that.
But not in a real life setting with another person. But
maybe.
Well, it seems to me what you're saying is you set up a room where you can get that catharsis,
if you can,
rather than doing it for real and taking it out on somebody else.
Well, like with my wife, we're both try to be intelligent about all this. What our deal is my because I get my feelings hurt really bad, is you can be as mad as you want. Just turn your head a little bit. Just turn your head a little bit, because if you're looking right at me and you're right, I get all crumbly and I get stupid and get my feelings hurt, all that. But if you can be angry, just go ahead, tell me, be angry for a minute. Just say how angry you are. Stomp your feet if you need to. Make a fist. Tighten up. Whatever you need to do. Clench your teeth. It's a very physical thing too. And if we can do that even just for a minute, then we can. A lot of times it's just like, okay, all right. Now let's talk. Because when your feelings go up, your logic goes down. When your if you can have too much logic and you can have too little logic, it's a balancing thing. I think IQ and EQ, it's not one over the other. Danny Goleman said, right, how EQ can be more important than IQ, but it's not.
And say EQ is emotional quotient, and IQ is intelligence.
Yeah, I just use those as emotional versus.
But people listening may not know what that is, so you have to define it.
Yep.
But have you ever been divorced?
I have.
More than once?
Nope.
Was there a lot of anger in that relationship?
Before we split up, no, not mine. Mine was kind of like what I did as a kid. I kind of just went away. I shut up and went away. It was more distance than anger. Afterward, I felt angry at myself a lot, but also, I was angry about some of the things that she did and that sort of thing, but I didn't say it to her. This wife, I do say it to her, and I'd say, not you made me angry, but when you do this, I feel angry because I took it as blah, 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 or because when I was little, or this is something that I believe, so it made me angry when you do that. But you're still you, right? It's not you. You're not broken. You're not a mess. It's me. It's my anger. So I deal with my anger.
Do you have a regret? Do you carry a lot of regrets about things you may have wished you hadn't done in your life?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that?
I cry sometimes. I try not to do them again. I try to make up for some of them. I'm big on amends, like 12-step programs. I try to learn from it is the biggest thing, I think. Try to not to do it different from now on. Yeah, I have some regrets.
You mentioned the 12-step program. Where you've been in 12-step
I
programs?
have.
And do you mind telling us what for? Or would you rather?
I was a stoner all the
Yeah.
time, every day, all day, every
So-
day, and it messed me. It
Addicts
didn't work
Anonymous
well.
or something like
Yeah,
that?
NA. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went for
What was it? What was it?
NA, Narcotics Anonymous.
Narcotics Anonymous,
That's
yeah.
yeah, as opposed to A. I went to A meetings too. You can kind of, they're very similar, but
Yeah, working with the same basic 12 steps.
right. And if you're too much into it, they do the 90 and 90. You do 90 meetings in 90 days, and I did do that.
Yeah.
And I went for years. Now we try to have people come and do the 12 steps. One of the things that they don't do really, really well is feelings. They try, and they do it well, like taking a fearless and searching moral inventory. That's going to bring up some stuff. If that doesn't bring up stuff, you're
That's one of
missing
the
it.
steps, yeah.
It
Take
is
a
step
moral
4, and
inventory.
it's a big
Make
deal.
amends to those who you've hurt or whatever.
Right.
the
Yep.
phrase is.
And I'm still doing that. I like
Matt,
that.
Matt, you are. Matt
recommend
Perelstein about emotional intelligence. What year were you born, Matt?
1960.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
4, 5, 6.
And I asked that to sort of get a gauge on what decades you've lived through, what you've lived through, and also you end up figuring out your age as we record here in August of 2017. It's easy to figure out that you're 57.
Right.
Yeah, that's an easy
Always
one.
like
It's
that.
an even number.
Yep.
You don't have to be a great mathematician to figure that. I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Yeah, I'm back with Matt Perelstein about emotional intelligence and seminars. He's writing a book on the subject. Now, when we took a short break, you mentioned that there are many places of different types of organizations dealing with EQ, which is emotional quotient, and that's related to emotional intelligence. And you wanted to talk more about that too. Yeah.
Sure. Did you know that
Yeah.
there is, they teach emotional intelligence at Harvard Medical School. There's a Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, Yale. There's one at Oxford. UC Berkeley is one of the biggest ones in the country. University of Pennsylvania is probably the leading emotional intelligence trainers in the world. It's coming. It's here. Most people still have never heard of it. You've probably never heard most EI or EQ, but it's coming. It's in the medical business industry. It's in criminal justice. It's in mental health in a big way, et cetera, et cetera.
And for what purposes?
Because they're finding that it's making huge impact in people. People don't understand why they do what they do. They don't understand their decisions, and they don't know how to deal with their behaviors. And the basis for personal responsibility is emotional responsibility first. Then you can take charge of your own life. And if you're not, then you end up with social problems and mental health problems and criminal problems and all that sort of thing. The kids in school, we were not trained when we were little. We didn't learn much about it. They called it character development or that sort of thing, but we didn't learn much specifically about our feelings. Now it's called social and emotional learning, SEL. That's what they call it in school. There's new legislation that it is required in K through 12 schools in the United States. And they're getting stronger into the curriculum involved in that. They just did a 10-year study of 900 school districts, including Sacramento, that have incorporated SEL, social emotional learning, into their curriculum, and have found that 2 huge things have happened. One, kids display more pro-social behaviors. They get along better, they help each other, they smile more, they listen to the teacher, some wild stuff like that, and much less of antisocial behaviors like fighting, drugs, weapons, all that kind of thing. And the kicker, which was, I don't know that anybody was specifically for this, but they found that the kids have improved their test scores. Over a 10-year study, they improved their test scores by 11%, which means that your EQ, your emotions, actually can help you think better. Mm-hmm. Your feelings can help your emotions, help you think better.
Do you know how it's taught?
Sure.
In the schools?
Sure. Yeah, they try to make it, teachers are overwhelmed and they have so much that they have to get across, and there's all the standardized testing they have to do, and there's so much curriculum they have to do. They're trying to make it so that it's not a burden. It's not another thing that we got to try and work into our day. You work it in. You work it in as you're going, right? Okay, you use stories about it, or you work it into examples, or they have a quick check-in. A lot of the little kids, especially, check-in. So, what are you feeling? One word, and all the kids go around and say what they're feeling. That's it. Just takes a minute. And they just and they check in a couple times a day. And
what emotion are you feeling?
Yeah, what emotion
are you going through?
Yeah, right now.
What kind of training do the teachers have in order to know? It's quite a challenge.
It is a challenge.
To be doing what they're doing plus this.
It is a challenge. We're getting better at it. Let me put it that way. They're finding more and more people are being able to teach it and teach teachers. They're incorporating it more into the curriculum, like I said. They now have specific people in some of the school districts that have incorporated this to teach them how to teach it and how to live it. How to live it.
How to live it, meaning?
Meaning that the teacher kind of needs to set an example. If this teacher is not okay with people's feelings, then it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
I put it that way. If they're not okay with their own feelings, an example is little Johnny's having a hard day. So instead of going, hey, go down to the he's acting out, go down to the principal's office. He gets kicked out. Now he thinks he's a bad kid. Now he's rejected. Now the other kids are laughing at him. That kind of thing. Instead, she turns to the other kids and go, what do you think we could do for Johnny? What do you think Johnny needs? Johnny, what do you need? Well, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today, or what happened with my parents at home, or what I didn't eat today. I haven't eaten for a couple of days. It kind of makes you grumpy, that kind of thing. And the other kids can have two of the biggest things with emotional intelligence are empathy and compassion.
Okay, empathy and compassion.
Beautiful things, right?
Yeah.
You can teach that. That's a teachable skill. And
you think so?
Oh, very definitely. Very definitely.
How so?
Just even being aware of it, talking about it, using the words. Most kids get it.
To open that up as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
But would you not agree that there are individuals who have what we might call personality disorders, where they don't, they aren't able to really show empathy?
Yeah.
Our current president might be one.
No comment. But yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Why won't you comment on that?
I don't know. I don't know him. So it's just, of course.
Why don't you want to comment on that? Why do you want to stay away from that?
Oh,
it's on everybody's mind these days. It's not politics. It's not politics. It's where we stand emotionally as a country, as a people.
That's true.
And
there's a lot of very scared people,
and there are
a lot of
very
angry
frightened people, a lot of angry people, a lot of confused people.
Yeah, and like in Charlottesville, they didn't
feeling extremely helpless. So
not handling it well.
Intelligence has everything to do with what we're experiencing in our leadership right now and in the country. So for you to avoid that is a little bit disconcerting.
Okay. All right. Well, I would love to see it be a more popular subject with any administration or any leaders. It's a huge part of leadership because they affect so many other people, and how they deal with their own emotions and other people's emotions makes all the difference. And I have to agree with you that it's not known for being super emotionally intelligent.
Okay.
Definitely.
The current president, as we speak, in
right, as
August
opposed to the last president who was very emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. Don't you think that a lot of what you'll be dealing with? When is your next seminar? Matt Perelstein teaches emotional intelligence seminars, or leads them with his wife.
The next one, day after tomorrow.
Don't you think that you would have to be dealing with some of the emotions people are going through right now in relation to what's happening in the country with Charlottesville and more?
Yeah.
With this kind of leadership. And last week, as we speak on August 16, 2017, we were talking about nuclear war, which would affect people's emotions. This week we're talking about Nazis and
Yeah, I hear you. I would say, don't I have to deal with that? Not really, because I don't really want to talk about what's happening now within our workshops.
Affecting people's emotions?
Sure, but it's a symptom. Okay, so if you're very, very afraid, okay, let's talk about your fear, and let's talk about how little you dealt with your fear or didn't deal with your fear, and let's help you deal with fear in general, not specifically on this subject or this subject or this subject, because they don't make that much difference, the story or the details. What makes the difference is how do you deal with your fear? How do you deal with your anger? How do you deal with your sadness?
And so that would say to me, and I think you just said it, that there are no specifics that people are going through for their catharsis in relation to their own specific traumas. It's broader than that.
Not sure what you mean.
Well, if you're not talking about the specific fear or trauma you're going through now in relation to what our government seems to stand for, that, and you said you're not going to talk about it in relation to that, about fear, you're just going to talk about fear in general. That would mean if a person had a trauma, as you had many as a child, you're not going into their own specific trauma, whether it's today's trauma with the government or whether it's 20 years ago their trauma with their parents when they were young. You're going into it in a broader sense.
Yes and no. It's A, like I said, how do you deal with your fear in general, and then or now, and then B is how did you start doing that, or how did you get off track in that, and that's usually stuff that has to do with childhood.
Their own specifics.
Very specific.
But it wouldn't have to do with the fear that they're experiencing today. Whether it had to do with family or policies that are going on socially or through the government. It would only have to do with their own personal life. It wouldn't have, or it might not have anything to do with what they're going through today, even in their own personal life.
Both. Yes, if you're feeling strong feelings now, you can usually relate that to how, the question I asked is how, as a child, did you feel similar? And that's usually when it started. And if you can deal with that, then it's kind of a whole package deal, and you can relieve and change it.
Okay, I'm still on this about policies because they're so hurting everybody right now. Everybody feels damaged. Many people do. I was listening to KGO radio earlier today, and the commentator was talking about how he feels very fearful because of what happened in Charlottesville and what's been happening not beyond Charlottesville last week with North Korea, nuclear possibilities and so forth, and he feels insecure and fearful. And so why wouldn't that be relevant if I were feeling extremely fragile right now because of all this and traumatized and frightened? Why would that not be relevant to bring up very specifically in relation to those matters?
It is very relevant, and if that is what gets you into the strong feelings, then that's what we would work with on the weekends. I mean, that's what we're going for is to be able to feel your feelings at what we call 100%, that you're to the depth that you feel them, because that's what seems to heal things the best in my experience.
Right.
So if that's what gets you there, that's great.
It would seem that would be extremely relevant right now because people are all experiencing something very frightening in the world. Yep. And so that it's putting us vastly in touch with our emotions if we allow it, if we're feeling. Right. And that's what you're all about with emotional intelligence. Right. Being in touch with your feelings. Right. My feeling, you can feel it viscerally and in your stomach, in the pit of your stomach, what's going on now. So to avoid the specifics of that seems puzzling to me.
Okay, I hear you. It's the specifics of it are critical in that of what it's doing inside your body and what you're doing with all this fear. Okay, so something's happening in North Korea, something's happening on the other side of the United States. Are you then carrying this around with you all day, every day? Why? How is that helping you? What can we help you do with that so that so it doesn't ruin your life? Because right now it's affecting you, but it's not affecting you. Right now, sitting in this chair right now in front of a microphone, it's not affecting you, but it is. Right? But it is.
What might be something that someone could do to have it not affect them?
In my opinion, one of the biggest things is to awareness, acceptance, action. So
pause in between. So
okay, awareness. Yep. Okay. Yes, I'm afraid.
Awareness.
Acceptance.
Yes. Okay. Awareness. Yes, I'm afraid.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Yeah, I'm really afraid. Really afraid.
Okay.
And action. Take some action in that, and you can if you're taking some action to make it better. If you're taking some action in that, you're going to stop for a minute and let yourself just feel as afraid as you can feel. Just let yourself, let it take over your body, and instead of fighting it and kind of letting it simmer underneath the surface, what seems to work really well is to just take a minute and be fear, nothing else, just like shaking and gritting, and you feel all the visceral stuff. I always ask, well, where is that in your body? And a lot of, you can find it. It's in your neck, it's in your shoulders, in your back a lot of times when you're not feeling support. And you allow all that stuff. Go in there and look and listen to your body and find out what it's trying to tell you. And it's saying, a lot of times, I'm vulnerable, I'm afraid, I'm good, I'm getting ready for an attack here, I'm concerned, I don't have control. I don't have control. I'm a victim.
I feel impotent.
Yeah, yep, all that.
Yeah.
And so if you can let yourself accept that and feel that for a few minutes, and then also consciously, if you can, allow the feelings, then you can consciously adjust them after you feel it and say, okay, all right, I'm not going to feel this for a while. You kind of let the energy go out of your hands, drop down. Some of the NLP stuff is imagine imagery, like you were saying, guided imagery, or just take the imagery. All right, I'm going to take this fear, and I'm going to either pull it right out of my heart, or I'm going to use gravity to just let go of it, or open my fingers up and let the energy flow into the earth or up into the sky, or however you want to do it, and take this energy out of you. And that's how I call it as a spiritual thing as well, because it becomes part of your being, and you can do something with it, and you can adjust it and leave it.
And the reason I used the word spiritual at a juncture a while back, Matt Perelstein, is because you said something that led me to think of the terms higher self and lower self.
Yeah.
That's when I came into saying you work spiritually.
Sure.
And so we are always striving to think and feel from our higher self, which is, if you really get into the spiritual, that's the Christ, the light
Great.
part of us.
Great. Yep.
The light rather than the dark part, which we all have both.
Right. And so little you's afraid, big you's afraid, but big universal you, the higher you, is like, okay, all right, we can do something with this. We can do something here. We do not have to walk around afraid all the time. We do not have to take our anger out on other people all the time. We do not have to be a mess all day long because these things are happening outside of us. Inside, we can get some peace. We can get some joy. We can get some love. We can up the love consciously and decrease the fear consciously.
And I use the word often, catharsis. Do you use that word?
I don't use it that much, but we certainly that's the way to go. I mean, that's what we're teaching.
Okay, good. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back and conclude. We took a quick break. Matt Perelstein, emotional intelligence seminar leader, along with his wife. What's your wife's name? Paula. Also writing a book on emotional intelligence. And how many years have you been dealing with it?
30-something years. I also do social media like maniac. I run a bunch of Facebook and LinkedIn groups they got 150,000 members, etc.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read a couple of paragraphs that you sent me email, and then I'm gonna ask you about something you just showed me. Emotional pain is not terminal, and we'll conclude on that. But I want to just read to reiterate from your notes. It's about emotional intelligence. EQ, it's about being smart. EQ is emotional quotient, but emotional intelligence would be EI, I guess. It's about being smart with ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings and emotions, what makes us behave, and act the way we do. Every decision we make is based on our thoughts and our feelings. But most folks are not aware of the feeling part, and that makes it harder to make good, solid decisions without all the information. That would be the feeling part that our body gives us. And as Matt said earlier, we have two sides of our brain, the left brain, cognitive, linear thinking side, and the right brain, which is the creative feeling side. Now, most of us have heard of that. We're a left brain focused society, so we don't really learn the right brain stuff in school or from our parents. probably. We don't even talk about our feelings. Well, that's a broad generalization. I can't say that about myself, and I assume it applies to people, some people, especially negative ones like fear and anger, sadness and guilt, shame and depression. So to get by, we do the best we can and make up the rest, usually alone. And I guess it's chronic for many. Certainly not, generalizations are always specious because they don't, no one applies to, you can say virtually, or many people have these issues of not expressing their emotions.
I decided to dedicate my life to teaching people about this and to share it with people because we don't learn about it and we are having to make it up on our own, and some people figure stuff out and some people don't. And it can be very, very painful, and with some of the basic concepts you can make huge changes, and they don't know. If people don't know, our parents didn't teach us because they didn't know, not that they didn't care. They tried to do the best they can, most parents, but they didn't know, so they couldn't teach us.
How do you go about getting the participants for your seminars?
Mostly referral, word of mouth kind of thing. Mostly, I took this and it made a big difference for me. We've had family courts have referred people to us. We have insurance. We've had foster kids and foster families. We've had 70 therapists have gone through our trainings. We have so mostly we had the Fresno County social workers came through because they were that's such a hard job. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So much, and they burn out. What do you do with it? They don't know what to do with their feelings. Yeah. And we found out, unfortunately, that a lot of the therapists were not trained. They trained talk about feelings. I call it left right brainers. Right brainers like myself are real into feelings, and sometimes I don't even make sense because I'm so feeling all this stuff. You can tell I get all excited. I'm a right brainer. Left right brainers are folks that talk about feelings, analyze feelings, can categorize them, can describe them in great depth, but they don't ever go there. You don't ever actually feel them. So it's a logical expression of
they're
feeling.
separated from it, but they're talking about it, not feeling it.
Right. It's not. There's no integration. So.
And you, again, emotional pain is not terminal. You've held up a sign for me.
Right.
Perelstein.
Right. I think a lot of people think it is. People are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of their fear. They're afraid of their anger, and they have big judgments about it because a lot of times we have our parents' voices in our head. I'll give you something to cry about, or pretty is as pretty does, and that kind of thing. That big boys don't cry. All that's baloney, and that kind of stuff gets stuck in our head and inside of our system, and it makes us do things that we wouldn't necessarily do if we knew better. So we're trying to teach people how to know better because people are having to figure it out on their own, and it's painful. Now that we've been teaching it for a while, we have some pretty basic concepts that we can teach people that they go, oh. And you teach kids, and kids are like, oh, yeah, duh, right? Yeah, of course, I know how to deal with it. I can do that.
But you don't have kids come to these seminars.
The youngest we've had is 8, so usually...
so you do.
Yeah, we've had...
Some.
13, 14 is probably about as young as I'd like to do, but there's
some sharp kids. You do them all over the
kids.
Country in different areas?
We do them in western United States.
Okay, but not just California.
We've done 4 in Washington and Salt Lake, but mostly California.
Okay. Give us some contacts, and maybe we'll call it a day.
Okay. Contacts? Is that, yeah. Okay. MattPerelstein.com, Perelstein. NewDirectionsWorkshop.com. Matt@2gethelp.com. 2. What else?
Okay.
EQ Rocks. That's my thing.
Is there a phone?
Rocks. Yeah. Phone would be just my cell, 916-599-8597.
Say it one more time.
916 Sacramento 599-8597.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add, or we'll conclude otherwise?
Yeah, pay attention to your feelings. They matter a lot. Okay. Happiness is a choice. So you get to choose what happens inside of you, no matter what's happening outside of you, and take into account your feelings because they matter a lot.
Do you feel happy these days?
I am. I'm
Really?
excited. Yep.
Well, good.
I'm a cancer survivor as well. I had a bone marrow transplant last year, and this is all new hair. And I'm very, very appreciative and very happy to be here.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Matt Perelstein, emotional
Fred.
intelligence expert.